Remakes don't happen all that often in anime. It's a high-risk, high-reward situation most studios tend to stay away from. I mean, think about it. If you're an anime studio, would you rather make a new series with limitless potential or redo an already popular one with an avid and potentially rabid fanbase? After all, a studio doesn't make its money off how many people watch a show, it's how many people buy a show, and in order to do that, they actually have to make it good. Remakes generally only happen when A, the studio thinks they can milk the cash cow dry, B, the original was absolute shit so it's almost guaranteed a remake will be better, or C, the original was a, quote, poor adaptation of the source material, so a remake will do it justice, usually allotting some time to pass between the two. As rare as they may be, remakes have produced some seriously great stuff. You need examples? Okay, how about Fullmetal Alchemist 2003 being remade into Brotherhood? Or how about Hunter x Hunter, originally adapted in 1999, readapted in 2011? Hell, you could even throw the Evangelion rebuilds in there, but I'll keep my distance from that for fear of poking the bear. Still need more? Okay, fine. Today, under the scope, I take a look at Hellsing Ultimate, partially adapted in 2001 as Hellsing, and faithfully readapted as this 10-episode marvel of entertainment. Hellsing Ultimate is quite possibly the most badass thing I've ever seen. It takes your romanticized Western vampires shining in the sunlight and rips their still-beating heart out right from their chest. Dum dum, dum dum. A secret sector of the British government known as the Hellsing Organization has long been fighting off supernatural forces threatening the country. Led by the headstrong Integra Fairbrook Wingates Hellsing and her most trusted weapon, the vampire Alucard, Hellsing has kept the public safe and in the dark as to the creatures of the night for centuries. However, when a new threat presents itself, one 50 years in the making, Hellsing face their stiffest test yet, one that could change the very fabric of the world. With a river of death in its wake, the dead shall dance, and all of hell shall sing. I don't know if there's a better way to describe Hellsing Ultimate than just bloody fun. Really though, do I need to say anything more than Nazi zombies meet badass Dracula? It's a rather simple story. There's no drama or romance, no deep meaning or message. It's just shit blowing up with brutal, bloody action, lots of profanity, and plenty of badass monologues to go around. What more could you ask for? The simplicity of the plot is part of what I love about it. You don't have to think too hard, it's not going to mess with your head. Just kick back and enjoy the ride. And man, what a ride it was. Take everything you thought you knew about vampires and throw it out the window. In the meantime, prepare yourself for a ton of action. Seriously, the climactic Battle of London takes up the final 6 episodes of the 10-episode series. At 50 minutes per episode, that's roughly 5 hours right there. The stakes continuously increase as the show wears on, ranging anywhere from one-on-one matches / dick measuring contests to full-on battles between entire armies. If you're looking for an epic tale of war between supernatural beings with an entire nation hanging in the balance, then this is exactly what you want. Of course, Hellsing Ultimate's story is far from perfect. It's definitely a bit over-the-top ridiculous at times. It focuses heavily on the here and now, shuffling a lot of backstory to the side and leaving a ton of questions about how we got to this point unanswered. It very much adheres to the show-don't-tell philosophy, as roughly 2/3 of each episode is all action. Granted, when it makes that action so unbelievably awesome, that in and of itself is not an issue. The problem arises when it comes at the expense of world building and character development. At times, it feels very much drawn out, like they're twiddling their thumbs in between fights. Did the Battle of London really need to take up 6 episodes? Especially considering so little time was given towards other important aspects, like character bios and backstory? Sometimes they tried to build up suspense to the point where you'd be sitting there waiting for 20 minutes for the fight to actually start. Again, that wasted time could have been allocated much better. Still, none of the episodes failed to keep my interest. It always had my blood pumping in anticipation for the next display of sheer badassery, even if it took a little too long to get there. Is it predictable? To a degree, yes. You know Alucard's gonna kick a lot of ass and the death toll's gonna rack up very quickly, but it always kept the tension extremely high. While certainly not a masterpiece of a plot, Hellsing Ultimate is simply put one of the most entertaining stories I've ever seen. With a non-stop onslaught of action that never gets old, epic doesn't even begin to cover it. Action isn't the only thing that makes Hellsing Ultimate so kick-ass. No, without the characters, it would be nothing. First, there's Alucard. Dracula spelled backwards. A character so badass he redefines what it means to be a vampire. Just when you think you've seen the limits of his power, he laughs in your face at what a fool you are. He's the classic evil hero, fighting for the good guys throughout, but displaying a shit ton of antagonistic qualities along the way, whether it be in the enjoyment he takes in torturing his victims or stripping them of their dignity. He serves as a constant reminder that a monster on a leash is still a monster. The show seems to initially use him to question the line between good and evil, but quickly abandons any exploration of such meaning in favor of action, action, and more action. Don't expect some compassionate, honorable character. Alucard has no time for morals, only killing and being cool. Speaking of cool, chain-smoking Integra is a hard one to read, as not much is revealed about her character, but she's certainly an intimidating presence. She doesn't do much other than give Alucard his orders, but hey, she does that pretty well. Rounding out the main Hellsing trio is Alucard's subordinate, Sarah's Victoria. She's initially used as a comic relief character with her happy-go-lucky attitude, but quickly sees some growth as she walks the path to becoming a bloodthirsty vampire. She never loses her caring personality, however, probably making her the most likable character in the show. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we've got the Major, Hellsing Ultimate's big baddie. Very little is revealed about the Major, but what we do get made him the most intriguing character. He may look like a weak shrivel of a man on the outside, but inside is a war-crazed, homicidal nut with a lot to say about his love for war, including one of the greatest speeches in the history of anime. He's got little interest in the quest for power. No, he wants war. Violent, bloody, devastating war. Finally, there's the unending litany of side characters ranging anywhere from Hellsing's powerful butler Walter, to the one-off villains in the earlier episodes, to, of course, Father Alexander Anderson, Alucard's arch-nemesis and foil. The characters themselves are all great. The problem comes in with their development, or rather, lack thereof. So much was left completely unexplained. What exactly happened in World War II between Alucard and the Major to lead us to this point? Just who is the Major and where did he develop his love for war? Have Alucard and Anderson met before the series, or did their rivalry only start in episode 1? What exactly happened in Integra's childhood when she met Alucard? What led Alucard to becoming the great vampire he is now? Then there's all the questions regarding Sarah's, particularly her change over the course of the series. It seemed like the show was going to delve into the struggles of her change into a monster, but they never really explored that. Instead, she serves to break up the action with occasional comedic moments that were hit or miss for the first half of the show, before rapidly morphing into a different character later on. Sarah's had a lot of potential I wanted to see the show explore more. Hellsing Ultimate's cast is loaded with intriguing characters that the show never really expands upon. There's a lot of backstory and character bio that's left up in the air. Instead, it chose to focus on the battles at hand. Sure, the characters were extremely badass and entertaining, but they could have been much, much more. Hellsing Ultimate has a great cast, it just doesn't use them all to their full potential. Well, except for Alucard. Being an OVA series, and a Madhouse one at that, you can expect some level of animation greatness. Hellsing Ultimate certainly doesn't fail to deliver. I love the art style and character designs. The facial movements were fittingly absurd at times, and the action sequences were almost flawlessly choreographed. There was no shortage of blood and gore, and it was always portrayed well. Of course, that's not to say it was perfect. The moments where the animation devolved for comedic effect felt a bit out of place for the most part considering the tone of the show, but now I'm nitpicking. Bottom line is, Hellsing Ultimate's animation, filled with dark colors and reds, lots of reds, is fantastic and greatly adds to the show's atmosphere. It primarily uses orchestral and operatic music for the background, all serving to give it that grandiose feel. Unfortunately, it's pretty bland. Whether it's because it's too muted or just hit or miss, none of the music really stuck out to me, save for a few exceptions. Some of the songs in the end credits were great, but those were the end credits. Those weren't used during the show. Kind of like the characters, I didn't hate the soundtrack, but I would have liked to have seen more. I have to mention one more thing about the sound: the dub. Hellsing Ultimate's dub is amazing. The series takes place in England, so most of the characters naturally have English accents, while the Germans, of course, have hilariously over-the-top German accents. Really though, I shouldn't have to say anything more than Crispin fucking Freeman, who voices Alucard. That's right, the living legend himself. That's not to say the Japanese did a poor job, it's just the English dub is so perfect. I seriously think watching the dub makes for a better experience, and that's coming from someone who usually hates dubs. Hellsing Ultimate's dub is one of the best of all time in my view, and absolutely the definitive way of watching it. Hellsing Ultimate is a must-see for me, for the sole reason that it's just so damn fun. This isn't a show where you should be looking for some sort of deep social commentary. No, to quote the Major, its purpose is the total absence of purpose. It's funny too, because I've complained about the exact same thing in some of my other reviews. The difference between Hellsing Ultimate and those shows, however, is that none of them were half as thrilling as this. Hellsing Ultimate is almost in a class of its own when it comes to entertainment value. It's definitely not a masterpiece in my eyes, not by a long shot, but that doesn't mean it's not great. So with that, I award Hellsing Ultimate an approval rating of watch, with a definite recommendation to do so, and an overall score of 4.1 cannons out of 5, because we all know, bitches love cannons. Hellsing Ultimate has its problems for sure, but it's still worth your time for the simple reason that it's an absolute blast. If you're on the fence about watching it, I cannot urge you enough to do so at least once. If you love action, if you love horror, if you love anime, Hellsing Ultimate is for you. So, what are you waiting for? If you're looking for something similar to Hellsing Ultimate, I do not point you towards the original series. I don't think it's utter garbage, but it certainly pales in comparison to this. I do point you towards Black Lagoon, as it has a similar art style, onslaught of badassery, and lots of profanity. As well as Berserk, for more blood and guts, only in a more medieval setting. And that's all for me. Be sure to tune in next week as I continue Horror Month, this time taking a look at the horror classic Higurashi no Nakukoro ni, and go vote for which horror anime you want me to review last by following the link in the description. This is your last chance. If you're a fan of Hellsing, I encourage you to go check out my buddy Loading Screen's top 5 vampire anime. You won't be disappointed. If you're feeling particularly generous and want to help me make better content, please consider checking out my Patreon page. Any help goes a long way. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and feel free to follow me on Twitter at UTS Reviews. Seriously, I'll make your day. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.